Hello, everyone. I'm Marty Chinesky, and along with my good friend Ken Brown, we're your host of Local Sports Wrap-Up. Today's December 18th, a week out from Christmas. Hallelujah. And today we have two special guests. We have Kimberly Sisk. She is the bowling coach for Gibraltar Carlson. And my buddy Justin Krolak, who's taught me a lot about the coaching game for Woodhaven. So I guess welcome, you guys. It's
Thank you.
great to have you guys here. We were going to get to spend a half hour talking bowling, and this show will run through January. So that's good. That's good. So how do you want to start this? Talk about how you got started. You used to have quite the, how long have you been doing this bowling coaching thing?
I coached junior league for probably about 8 years before I actually got into the high school, and this is my 10th year
Nice.
at Woodhaven.
Nice. And you, Kim?
I started out doing a little bit of youth coaching at Flat Rock for a couple of years, but I've been at the varsity level 4 years for bowling.
Nice. I started my kids out at Biddle Bowl, right in my backyard, 2 blocks away.
Nice.
And with Judy there, we had Summer was one of the girls that was bowling at
Right.
Biddle, and a couple years behind Julia, and taught her how to bowl at Biddle, and it got them in the system.
Good youth program goes a long way.
Yeah.
They used to have one at Indian, they used to have a really good one.
I had a couple bowlers that were
Lucille ran
there.
it.
Yeah. And then they stopped it. Now we were talking a little earlier about youth bowling. Flat Rock's got the feeder system, right?
Yes, they have a very good system.
And that was a popular one where you were telling us they feed the Huron kids. That's
Yes,
why Huron's
yeah,
so
yeah.
strong.
And airport.
And airport.
Yeah.
And then the other one's Taylor, Score Lanes.
Right.
Score Lanes at Taylor. Now, all the Wyandotte kids used to bowl in that. When Purdue was coach, that was a big deal. But now I don't think there's any Wyandotte kids, because don't you have to be there as a coach if they want to bowl?
No, not at all.
It's not like that?
No, it's off season, so you really can't be coaching too much because you're only allowed to
Right.
coach 4 kids in the off season. So they usually will have a parent that comes in and will coach the high school kids.
I thought it worked out, though, during the season. If they bowled on Saturday, they had to have somebody there
can't
back
bowl
in the
If-
day.
during the season.
If they bowl during the season, but it's so hard nowadays because we have so many league meets that you don't have those opportunities. It used to be where you had 10 opportunities outside of bowling, and when it's like that, you do have to have everyone from your high school, everyone with a
Right.
physical, and a coach present if you're going to do that.
That's why Purdue was always there on
Yeah.
Saturdays. My son bowled in the program at one time back in 14, 15, somewhere in there. So-
Do you guys still bowl yourselves? I know Coach
yeah.
Marty still bowls quite a bit.
they
I've
call
dealt
it.
with injuries over the last 6 years, so I've had 3 major surgeries, and I haven't bowled in 6 years.
Okay.
But before that, I bowled from the age of 5 until 46.
Okay.
Yep.
And what about you?
I didn't start bowling until my 20s when I met my husband, but now I bowl a lot. I've had to take a break this year. I had hip surgery. But I'm in like a lot of the Metro Detroit tournaments, and I've traveled and done some of the pro tournaments with the ladies. So I'm pretty competitive. And I bowl with the guys a lot.
Yeah.
You're proficient with a bowling ball. That's how I explain myself now,
Yeah.
because I'm not the guy I was when I was in my 30s.
For sure, but yeah.
And I don't care about the game as
No.
much. I love passing the info
Mm-hmm.
I had. What are highlights of the Gibraltar Carlson team? I know last year, or a couple of years ago, there was a big highlight with your son.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough my son Zach bowls and still is bowling. He bowls for Trine now in college as a freshman, but he bowled all his youth league in Flat Rock. And then he moved up and bowled a lot of tournaments outside of high school, so MJMA, which is Michigan Majors. He would travel to Ohio to Indiana and get into the SMART program, which is a really good thing for the kids is outside of that. They can earn a lot of money set aside for college. So the SMART program, when you would win a tournament, he would get so much money put into his little bank account. So it's really neat. So we were lucky. He did very, very well his junior year, made it to states and actually won Division II title.
Nice.
And then the following year, our team made states. He missed the cut by 10, and he handled it very well. I was really proud of him for how he handled it. And as a coach, we've always tried to instill in the kids, it's not just about winning, it's how you behave, it's what you do, whether you're winning or losing.
Sure.
So I was proud of him for that. It was hard for him not to do that, but the team made it. So our team went to states. Ran into a buzzsaw. We hit Huron, and one of their bowlers shot 300 against us.
Oof.
But we only lost by I think it was like 20 pins or so overall. So we hung on. We did well, and we ended up 7th that year. So we've done
Very
some good
nice.
stuff with
Very
the
nice.
with the
And-
boys' side. We're working with the girls. We're getting them there.
Yeah.
And Mr. Krolak, you've had some success on the girls'
Yep.
side and the boys' side over the years.
Yeah, I have 5 regional titles,
Nice.
and last year the boys finished runner-up to Wayne Memorial.
I was at that match.
Yeah,
That's a good-
and in
good team.
2014, my girls finished 3rd in the state.
Nice.
Nice.
I've had a
yes.
couple kids. I've had Jeffrey Lazuski.
Yep.
He won the Division I state championship for the individual.
Yep.
I've had some girls. I had 2 girls. Savannah Gorecki finished 7th, and Megan Valentic, she finished 5th. So I've had some success.
It's always, yeah. It's nice, and we talk about this all the time. When you're coaching, finally you see some results.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing, the letter of intent or the signing. You know, your son threw the heck out of the bowling ball, still does, I'm sure, and still will for the next 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, when you can get them to sign and bowl somewhere, I think no matter what the sport,
Right.
you know, whether
Yeah.
it's a football kid, a soccer kid, a basketball kid, we read anytime we get letters of intent or signed somewhere, we read it on this show as much as we can.
That's awesome.
And don't forget, you can get a hold of us at localsportswrapup@gmail.com.
That's right.
A lot of people don't realize, that such a small percentage of kids will actually go on and play in a college sport.
Sure.
They think, oh, my kid's going to go to college and do this, but it's really a hard thing to get into. So when they
Yes.
do make it, it's a good thing to celebrate.
Every parent thinks they've got the next, yeah,
Yeah,
next Brady.
yeah.
He's and it is a small percent. It is a small percent that
It's
gets
like
to move on.
0.06%
Is that what it is?
of
very
all
small.
high school athletes play in college.
Yeah.
0.6.
Yeah, that's very small.
That's 6 out of 1,000.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This
There we
is.
go.
Those kids that actually won state championships or represented in the regionals, did they all have a youth background, or did
No.
any of them come up like starting freshman year? Or was
Mine did. Mine had a youth background, and I got lucky to be truthful with you. My first year, I had to feel out my team, and the girls they finished like 6-3, and the boys were 3-6, and then the next year I had 3 freshmen that showed up they were seasoned bowlers.
Sure.
And I had another girl that went to the States the year before, so I had 4 very good bowlers. And my girls' teams were beating a lot of the boys' teams when we were bowling at that time. It was something special, and it's not as much as me being a great coach as I just stepped into a great spot right there when it happened.
No, that's nice.
It's very nice when you have the girl or the boy shows up and they have passion and they've been bowling and they come in with a triple ball bag.
Right.
You
Yes.
know, they've got equipment and they know how to throw it and they just need a little fine tuning, which, all of us. Let's talk about like I think Ken tried to make the point. When you, is it easier to coach the girl that can really just shows up and can bowl, has been bowling youth league her whole time, or do you want that athlete, that softball player that just comes in as a 9th grader? Because my experience when Julia was playing, she dragged all the volleyball girls to, Tana Porter and a couple others, and I just turned them into bowlers. And by the
I
time
would love
11th
that.
grade came around, we were competitive by the time they were in it a couple of years.
I would love that, but I usually don't get the athletic students. They're playing basketball,
Right.
or they're swimming, or they're doing something else. Most of my kids, they're in band, choir.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, without a doubt.
They're all great academically, so that's a nice point about it, is I get a lot of kids that academically I don't have to worry about. It's every so often you'll have the one kid that you have to really work with to make sure their grades are up, but for the most point it's not those kids. But I would love to have an athlete show up.
Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes you have to build them, and some of them have a little bit of talent. And like I'm lucky, 2 of my boys bowl outside of the team. You know, they bowl youth. They bowl some of the tournaments that are going on in the off season. But the rest of my team is kids that are just there because they don't have another sport to be in.
Yeah.
They're in band or whatever, and they're interested. And then it's fun because you can see them change, and as they start getting better, their passion starts growing for the game.
Secret word right there, passion.
Yeah.
Secret
When
word.
if you can get them to feel that and get it, then they work twice as hard, and then they go and get in leagues the next year. Had a couple kids join leagues this year for me that didn't do it before.
Okay.
So it's just working on getting a good base, and we like to call it our family. We don't call it a team. We try to get the kids to really buy in to a system where you support each other and you're there for each other, and a culture that creates a good team.
Bowling's a big family.
It has to be.
That's what's nice
Yeah.
about bowling. It's even if you're playing against someone, you're giving them a high five when
Well,
they.
our boys
do
know
good.
a lot of each other, you know, and they go back and forth and talk and joke, and it's nice. The kids really do get along
when
well.
we have the 4 schools bowling out of Woodhaven too,
Yeah.
so like today, we all just left practice.
Okay.
Okay, we've got Wyandotte, Woodhaven, Carlson, and everybody's starting to know, especially now that we're 8 weeks in. Everybody knows everybody else,
Yeah.
and we even had a girl. We were practicing at Indian on Saturday, and one of the girls was taking lessons from the pro shop guy there, and she walked over to one of my girls to say hi because she bowls for Leka Park or somebody else. I didn't know who, but
Yeah.
she came over and said hi because it's beware, it could be a social event, and when it becomes a social event, they don't pay much attention to bowling,
Yes.
especially on the girls' side.
Oh, yeah.
It becomes a social event, and that's the one thing we have to guard against because you said the magic word, passion.
Right.
You can't teach that.
Nope.
You hope they catch on and like it. I've got the most 9th graders I've had in a long time. I have 6. That gives me 4 years of bowlers.
That was me 3 years ago.
And those girls are good now.
Yes.
You've done
yeah,
a good
they've
job.
done a very good job. I think we were 5-13 the first year, and then last year we were 12-5, and we're 3-1 right now. So.
Yes, I know. Ken hears me complain about it all the time.
If I was a basketball coach and a kid walked in, he's 6'8", 215 pounds, I'm thinking he's going to be a decent basketball
Yes.
player. If I was a football coach and the kid walked in and he's 6'4", 230, I'm thinking he's going to be a pretty good
Exactly.
football player. The body type for a bowler,
There is none.
There is none?
My
There
son's
is none.
6'5", 250.
Okay.
And
So he
he's a
throws
bowler.
two-hand?
No, he
one.
he
Okay.
can bowl
Traditional.
two-handed, but he's stuck with the traditional.
Okay.
But very soft at the bottom. But he's learning how to control speed now because college shot is very difficult. And he's doing well. He's had to tone his game a little bit, but yeah,
The
they
one-
come in all sizes.
Yes.
It's amazing how I've bowled with guys that are 6'7". I've bowled guys that are 5'7". And it doesn't change. One of the best bowlers that I grew up seeing, grew up wanting to be like. He was maybe Willie Hammer. He was.
Oh gosh, yeah, he's not very
he's
big
about
guy.
5'3", and he's one of the best bowlers I've ever seen.
We're lucky because we have an environment here in Detroit where we have a lot of high caliber bowlers. So these kids can see them in a league or know a parent that knows somebody. Thunderbolt's filled with all those high talent bowlers. All the local lanes are.
Okay.
So it's just if they get into that culture, it's hard to get out of it.
No.
They stay there for the rest of their life.
They
They'll
do.
bowl leagues later.
Okay.
No,
that's good to hear. I was wondering, was a prototype? That's it.
No, I'll
No.
tell you what, you've got kids that are. Well, let's talk Tommy Bain. If he's 110 pounds soaking
Yeah.
wet,
Dripping wet, yeah.
and he's
He is
it's
a
the
heck
anchor
of a
man on
bowler.
the Wyandotte boys team.
Yeah.
Okay.
He brings it,
He's
and then
very good.
you could be 240 and throw it as soft as could be.
Yep.
Yep.
It's just about doing the same thing over and over. What the first thing I teach is the balance and the timing. The one step, just hold your finish, raise your arms. You guys in that same train of thought? I mean, you
yeah.
get somebody that hasn't touched the bowling ball. They come in, they pick a plastic one off the rack. Coach, I want a bowl. How do you, first we need equipment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's the hard part.
Which we have a good program together in the
Right.
Downriver League where any kid that needs a bowling ball can get one.
Yes.
Yep. We
And
have a
it's
nice,
not going to cost them a lot of money. Donations from
right.
bowlers in the area. That's like I said, bowling's a big family. So we have so many people that just bring in their extra balls that they were going to throw in the garbage anyways,
Right.
and we can hand them out to a kid, and it costs them $40 to get it re-drilled for them, and they're doing great.
Right.
So then what? Then what's the next move? What do you
Well, I like to just watch them and see what they do, and
Yes.
then adjust them to keep it simple, something they can repeat and be successful with in the first couple weeks, and then you build slowly on that. But like you said, I like to do the one step, get it simple, make sure they're getting a release, just little things until it all adds up together to where they need to be,
Yeah.
and that takes years sometimes.
Yes. But I like to tell them, and you guys have been doing this a long time too, and I've been doing it a long time, and sometimes it gets so repetitive,
Right.
Yes.
saying
very.
the same thing over and over. But I tell them all the time, the skills you're learning today, you can use till you're old. Just stick with it. Just stick with what I'm teaching you. I didn't forget how to teach.
The hardest thing is to teach them how to practice with a purpose.
Right.
Because
I'll agree with that.
you can tell them one-handed. Start with one-step approach, and they'll go up and they're just throwing the ball. It's not thinking about where my hand is and where I'm following through, coming through the ball the correct
Targeting
way.
the
It's
lane.
I have to take
targeting.
notes right now because I have to learn how to be a better coach because that whole thing about practicing with a purpose, my team is lacking, and
It's a big thing. I had my boys team that last year they finished second in the state. This year they started out 0-3 because when they practiced, they did not practice for a purpose. They just threw the ball down the lane.
Right.
When we told them to take a one step, they would whine about it instead
Right.
of doing it. And this last week, they finally bought in, and they just shot the highest series and highest game of the year
on the sheet.
for Downriver League.
Nice.
So they bought into it, and I think that's the biggest thing is buying in and practicing with the purpose. It's not just going up and throwing the ball down the lane to see what kind of score you can get. It's
Right.
every time you go up, you should be practicing something about your game that makes it better.
I'm gonna write that
We
down.
work
right
on
here.
a system so that they can find one mark and move their feet to make their spares, to keep it simpler so that they don't get nervous when they're up there. Just follow your system, follow what we've learned, and you don't have to be nervous at the line. You're just going to hit your mark and your ball's going to do what it's supposed to do. So
Right,
once they
because-
buy into that and really start thinking about what they're doing, it becomes easier and easier for them, and then they're like, oh yeah, maybe they do know what they're talking about.
That's I say every now and then, Coach does know what he's saying. And I've been just coaching the girls since my daughter.
Yes.
And so I don't get involved with the boys too often. But I'm a firm believer, man. You need 4 shots. You need a pocket shot, and if you miss the head pin, you need to move a couple boards right and hit the Brooklyn. And then you need the left corner and the right corner. You can master those 4 shots. 3 of them basically on the same target.
Yeah.
And then the 10-pin side is just, target over maybe.
Right.
Exactly.
But, you only need 4 shots to be successful. I try to tell them and preach that. Oh, you do need a little more than that, but you need to be consistent with your release.
It's the hardest thing is getting them to
Oh,
practice
yeah.
with the purpose because otherwise, that's the only way they're going to get better.
Right.
Well, that's something I'm going to use Thursday.
What about the strategy for practicing with a purpose? Is there something that you said to them? The guys that weren't doing it on the 0-3 team, how many did you have back from last year?
We only lost 2 boys from last year, so we had 6 coming back, and then because we actually had 8 on the varsity, but only 7 bowled in the states. But we had 6 coming back, and we have a freshman up, and we actually just moved up a JV player that is doing very well as too for us. But the one that we brought up from JV, he was bowling fine. It was the other ones from last year that were having trouble because they were just throwing the ball too hard.
Yeah.
There's a new oil pattern out, and that oil pattern calls for a little bit of finesse. If you don't finesse it, when the ball hits the pocket, you're leaving some strange spares that you have to pick up.
And there's an area of out of bounds.
Yes.
So I'm trying to teach my kids that the gutter isn't where the gutter's at. The gutter's actually a few boards in, to keep them away from that area.
It's a good one. I haven't
More
thought about
notes.
saying
More
it.
notes.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
I never thought about
Yeah,
that.
it's,
About
so
doing
now
it.
our
Yes.
new gutter is actually the 8 board because we don't want to get it outside of 8
No.
because it never does the same thing twice. And with my two-handers, I have one returner from last year's team, so I am all new kids.
Yeah.
And so it's a little rough. We're actually 3-0. We're tied for first, but we haven't really bowled a challenge yet, and we're going to get that this week. So I told him, I said, if you want to beat these teams, you've got to make your spares. And I
Yes.
preach spare game, and we work spare game. We do all spare game drills all the time. They barely get to throw a strike. So,
You said you got some challenging games this week. Who do you play this week?
well, we have Allen Park on Tuesday, and Wednesday we have Taylor.
Okay.
And I believe Taylor's really going to give us a run for our money.
Taylor, yeah, they're bowling
They're
good
good
right now.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, they
throwing the ball
just took
very
care
well.
of us.
So.
It
They
was,
took care of us the other day too.
But with my one returner, I've a lot of inexperience, a lot of young kids, and it's just getting them to really understand that they can do it, to have that confidence in themselves, to settle down and just do what they have to do.
The spare drills, they'll all roll their eyes when Coach Marty says we're going to shoot 10 pins now for
It's
the next
boring.
15 minutes, and we're not going to stop till somebody makes 5 in a row. So then when they get to like 3, and I'm on them, and then they get to 4, and I go, Megan, is that 4 in a row? Boy, if you make this one, Meg, everybody,
putting
can
the
stop
pressure on you,
shooting them.
Coach.
Right, but see, they should learn
They
there
need
is
that.
no pressure.
Yes.
It's just hit your target.
Yep.
Every shot is like the first frame. There's a Martyism for you.
Yeah.
Just get up there and throw the ball like it's the start of the game.
Yep.
And they look and they get a couple misses and they freak out.
Yep.
And or they get a couple strikes going and they, relax.
start
and
tensing up.
Right.
Yeah.
And when they have the misses going, and then you look like they'll start open, and finish with 150. And I'll say, you started with 3 opens and you still shot 150. Don't start panicking just because you have an open in the first couple frames.
Right.
You've got
The best time to have an open is the first frame.
exactly. In my game, it's
Better
a
to have
200
it at
start.
the first than
You know how many times I've shot 200 with an open in the first frame? All the time, okay? And it's a shame that, you start with a 4-bagger the other day. I shot a $190. I mean, what is that all about?
I had a 211 game with 9 strikes.
Oh, I had 228 with 10.
Yeah.
Well, way back 30 years ago, but yeah. Greek church in there and another poor pin count. And I had
Get them low
228
pin
with 10
counts.
strikes.
How many times do you tell the kids, don't get a low pin count after a strike?
That's
What
our
are you
goal.
doing? Oh, my
7
Lord.
or better. Every time, especially in Bakers. If you see that girl in front of you just made a spare, you got to hit the head pin.
Yes.
Right.
You just have to. There's no way around that.
Agreed.
And but we lose count all of it. On the girls' side, we lose
Oh
count
yeah, the
a
girls'
lot.
side is rough with that sometimes. Our girls' team is young as well. We have no seniors,
No.
and they're this close to being very, very strong, but they don't know it yet. They're not seeing it. So I have to.
They're throwing
We're
the ball
working
very
with
well
them,
right now.
working with them on it, trying to get them more consistent and just and believing in themselves. That's, I had a girl going. She had 180 in the 7th, and she freaked out. She didn't shoot 2 because she was so worried. And it's like,
Right.
we got to get them there more often so they quit freaking out and getting more habit built. But
And you had that problem. Your kids, now they're competitive.
Right.
Your girls now want to win.
When I got them first, I had come off of what I think it was 7 of 8 Downriver League championships. 7 of 8 years I won it.
then I joined.
You
the
beat
league.
me. You beat us. You beat us the one year, but other than that, we won it the 7 out of 8. And then everyone graduated, and these girls came in, and I had them as freshmen, and sophomores. And I went through a struggle. I knew I was going to go through a struggle,
Right.
and instead of getting upset, I just was
yeah,
encouraging and happy, and I'm just glad that they came out to bowl. Last year they showed improvement, but they still weren't to the point where your team was and the Taylor team was last.
Right.
Even though we did beat Taylor last year, we weren't as good as your two teams. And this year, I think they finally are to the point where they can challenge for a league championship.
And if we've learned anything about the bowling game too, is like the very first year, I think my daughter was a 9th grader or a 10th grader. We got that team out of regionals to states, and they were a 6-6 or 6-8 team, and they had no business. But you know what? It was her 10th grade year. It was Julia's 10th grade year, because when she was a freshman, she couldn't crack the lineup to get to states because there were so many good bowlers.
Yes.
And she was a part-timer because of the other sports. But we took a 500 team to the states. There's only 18 teams at states. Now we finished 17th, but you know what? We beat somebody there, and we weren't
Yes,
even
you
the
did.
top. We weren't even top 5 in the league. But come regional day at our house,
Yes.
that helped because it was at Woodhaven, and these teams come in. Woodhaven's tough, man.
Yeah, it
We were
is.
so used to it, and you know, you had that same experience. You weren't very much top 3 or 4 last year. Were you third in the league
No, we
for
were,
the boys?
yes, we were third or
Third or
the
fourth,
boys
yeah.
was third.
Okay, and then you ended up
Maybe
being
fourth.
state-
Taylor may have been ahead of us too.
Yeah, I think so.
I
'cause
think we may have been fourth. We barely squeaked by in the regional. We were third place, and just the boys just had great day on the lanes that
Yeah.
And
time.
then you end up runner-up in the state
Yep.
finals.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Get
Well-
hot at the right time.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what I keep telling them. I want them really good in February. I know
Yeah.
we're 1-3. I think we could come back and compete with everybody else. I really do. But that's going to play out on its own.
Right.
So as we get ready to wrap up, I can't thank you enough, Kim, for
Thanks for
coming
having
and
me.
talking bowling. Justin, always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Ken, you know, I'll
Thank
see
you.
you.
It's nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet
man.
you as
It's
well.
a
We'll be-
wonderful thing you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then we'll take this thing in the new year. We'll start up probably the week after the New Year's. We'll start back up with local sports, and by then we'll have a good feeling how all our local teams in Wyandotte are doing. And if you have any kids signing letters, you want to get a hold of us, localsportswrapup@gmail.com. I'm Marty Chinesky for Ken Brown, Justin Krolak, and Kimberly Sisk. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in about 3 weeks. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year.